a couple example problems for solving radical equations. Now, the first step that we wrote down in notes was that we had to isolate the radical. So that's this cube root of 8x. We want to get this all by itself. So the negative 5 and the 12 have to go to the other side. We start by subtracting 12 from both sides. So we have 5 times the cube root of 8x equals a negative 20. And now to get rid of the 5, we'll divide both sides by 5. And we have the cube root of 8x equals negative 20 divided by 5 is a negative 4. And of course, mistake number 1, I don't know if you guys caught, this should be negative. So actually it's a positive 4. Alright, so now we got that radical all by itself, and we need to do the opposite of cubing this 8x. So the opposite of that is we're going to raise this to the third power, which means we come over here and raise this to the third power also. And the cube root raised to the third power, they cancel each other out. So we're just left with the 8x equals 4 cubed is 64. And then our last step is divide by 8. So we're coming up with x equals an 8. Now, does x equal 8? I mean, does it really? We never, ever, 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 ever know till we actually check that solution. So if we just grab our original equation, I'm going to bring it down here so we can see it. Let's plug in 8 for x and see if we get a true statement. So negative 5 times the cube root of 8 times 8 plus 12. Does that equal a negative 8? That's what we're trying to figure out. So negative 5 times the cube root of 64 plus 12. Does that equal negative 8? Of course, I'm running out of room. I'll just continue over here. So the cube root of 64, negative 5, is a 4. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. Negative 20 plus 12 is a negative 8. So we're getting a negative 8 does equal a negative 8. So we did find a solution. X really does equal 8. It's possible that we would come up with a false statement for that extraneous solution, but in this case that did not happen. So our next example, 2x to the 3/2 power equals 16. Find the radical or the rational exponent, and we need to get that by itself. So in this case, it is the x to the 3/2. The 2 has to go to the other side, so we will divide both sides by 2. We have x to the 3/2 equals 8. And now one nice quick way to get rid of this exponent on this side is to raise it to its reciprocal. So instead of the 3/2, we're going to raise it to the 2/3. Raise the other side to the 2/3. So that leaves us with just an x equals, I'm going to rewrite this as the cube root of 8 squared. Cube root of 8 is 2 squared equals 4. So we're saying x equals 4. But does x really equal 4? I don't know. We need to plug it in and see. I'm erasing some of that. I hope that's okay. So if I just grab the original equation so we can go right off of that, we're doing 2 times, we're saying it's a 4, so 4 to the 3/2 power, and we want to know, does that equal 16? Well, 4 to the 3/2, we're taking the second root of 4, and the second root of 4 is 2, and we're cubing the 2 to get an 8. So we're getting 2 times 8 on this side. Does that equal 16? 16 equals 16. So check, we do have an answer of x equals 4 on this one. We always have to check those answers. You'll lose points on the test if you're not checking to make sure that you're not coming up with one of those extraneous solutions.